Hello, everyone, and welcome to
I
Inspire.
don't know if this is a version of the, I don't know. Hold on.
Okay, well, didn't want that in the show. Hello, everyone. Is Key still over with us? If not, we're
It's still
going to
doing it.
start the show shortly.
Hi, everyone.
Hold on.
Okay. Well, while you fixing it, just stop your camera. I would say stop. Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inspire. We inspire together. I am your host, Shaw Hayes, and to the left of me, or the right, however way you're looking, is our founder and co-host, Kiana Tennant.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be with you tonight.
We open up the show normally introducing our guests, but while we're doing some behind the scenes technical stuff, we wanted to just basically let everyone know we're coming to the end of our first season. We're so thankful for all the guests who have come on the show and taken part in exploring the journey with us and telling us of their successes and pitfalls to achieving success in their professions. And as we always close out the show, asking people if they know of anyone that has inspired them, or if you've been an inspiration to someone, please follow us on all things Inspired by Anonymous on Facebook or YouTube, on Instagram. Like, subscribe, and share. We love if you would be a part of the show and just being able to support us by sharing that information with your followers as well. But today we are honored to have here with us um, former celebrity assistant and entrepreneur. She has a wealth of information and experience that she is going to share with us in her journey and becoming a celebrity assistant and transitioning her career, working in different events, working with other celebrities in those events, and kind of getting a window into what she's doing right now. So we thank you right now for Jehan Lanoue for joining us and going through
Hey.
her journey with us today. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, ladies, for having me on Inspire, Kiana and Shay. This is an amazing platform, a weekly series of Inspire. You've had some great artists and different people, all walks of life on this show, and it's an honor to be on here.
And now we have you. And so we're so excited to have you on here and to learn about your journey and what you've,
Right.
done. What Kiana was telling us about the platform, how she wanted to have this be a platform for people to hear about people's journeys and getting into different fields and professions.
Right.
Oftentimes you hear celebrity assistant, you don't really know what that entails. I mean, you've probably seen some aspects of it on television, but not really knowing what that looks like. So talk about specifically, reading your bio, it said something about you having a friend who got into the business through American Idol and you became then a celebrity assistant. What skill set did you have coming into that kind of led you to go, okay, I'll do this?
Well, the first thing is that he trusted me. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing, trust.
Mm-hmm.
Loyalty, because when you have someone coming in to be a right hand person, it takes a lot of trust because you're in their business, you know everything about them, from bank accounts to social security numbers, everything. So that was the first thing. The second thing is just organization, and then the rest of it he kind of taught me because he was already organized because he's a school teacher, so he has that organization being curriculum for his students.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest was just teaching me more about production and different types of equipment and what is, the stage plots that he may need when they're booking him. So that's pretty much the skills that I have. But the rest he taught me, but it's just trust and being loyal.
Right, because I mean, of course, you have to have the foundation, and then because it's not like a job you can find on LinkedIn, like somebody just looking
No,
for
absolutely not. No.
a celebrity assistant. So it has to come through a personal relationship, like with anything when people get in the industry, because you have to entrust that what people are going to be around, they're going to hold close to their chest and not share that information with
Right.
anyone. So after you having that going into, I guess, explain to the day and out of what that looked like being a celebrity assistant.
Well, it varies. It depends. One day you might be, in production rehearsals all day. Next day you might be in studio. Then you're jumping on a flight for a gig with, for the artist.
Mm-hmm.
You're in meetings. You're dealing with home estate stuff. So, for instance, when I started with Anwar, he doesn't have kids, but it was things that he need around the house. Maybe taking the car to get an oil change.
Mm-hmm.
Always run to get coffee. When we're in the
Mm-hmm.
studio. but things of that sort. So every day you're doing something different. It's not, a set schedule. You always have a to-do list, and you're always trying to get that to-do list down to nothing, but it's always something to do. So, and then you're
Mm.
always getting emails too. So for instance, we may be on one gig, say in New York, and then you have an inquiry, a business inquiry saying, hey, we're interested in booking, this is at the time when I was working with Anwar, we may want him to come over to Los Angeles. And these are the particulars, we discuss budget, things of that sort. So every day was a different day.
So you're basically a liaison for every probably aspect of their lives. So you basically dealing with everyone from, I guess every aspect from the, I guess the umbrella underneath being in the music industry. So how does that work when you're dealing with
I
that?
can't hear.
You can't hear me
Can't
at
hear.
all? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. Mm-mm.
Uh-oh.
It's like when Kiana clicked in, I can't hear.
Oh no.
Hmm.
Kiana, can you hear me now?
I can hear
Kiana,
you. I can hear you perfect. Yep.
okay. But Jehan, you can't hear me.
Okay, now I can hear you. Whatever you just did, now that's better.
Oh, okay, maybe it probably muted us all. Okay.
So what
So
was that? I'm sorry.
no,
What
I
was
was
the
saying
question?
you have to be like a liaison to everything
Yes.
in that person's life. So you're dealing with, I guess, multi different, I guess, departments in a sense. If this was a company, everyone will have to kind of come through you in a sense.
Right. So for
Okay.
instance, like say we get on site. So we may have the meetings prior to, getting to the city. So
Mhm.
we may have rehearsal depending on as far as like with budget, if they're allowing rehearsals, maybe 1 or 2 days. So for instance, say if it's a week of rehearsals, we may rehearse in our city or we may rehearse getting there, but you always have a sound check. So
Mhm.
when you get on site, if it's meaning like Anwar, he may have a band, I'm responsible for the band and singers. So I'm dealing with getting their hotel room. So I'm doing a
Oh
little bit
wow.
of road management as well,
Mm.
and dealing with hotel rooms. Jahan, what time do we eat? I'm dealing with them coming on down to down to lobby for on time. And then I'm dealing with the stage managers and different producers, whomever else that's on the show. So you're pretty much being that point of contact for the actual event.
So coming into this job, I'm
Mhm.
assuming you had time available. You were just able to transition from that. Were you exploring other career opportunities at that time? Is this something you always wanted to do?
Yes, ever since I was young, around 11, I always knew that I wanted to work in the music entertainment industry, but I just never knew exactly what area that I wanted to pursue. But I was in an off-Broadway play when I was, 14, 15 years old. A lead role was in Newark, New Jersey, down at Symphony Hall. If you're from New
Wow.
Jersey,
Oh
Symphony
yeah,
Hall. And
yeah.
that ran about for like 2 months, and I had the lead role in that. And then I decided that I wanted to go. I told my parents that I wanted to go to Arts High School in Newark, New Jersey, even though I lived in Hillside. And my parents were like, "You don't know anyone. Why don't you, go to Hillside?" And I'm like, "No, because it's like fame. They have, drama and music." So I went to Arts High. I got accepted. Man, I didn't know anyone, but that's what I love, being around people that I don't know, to, flourish and to meet new people. I've never been fearful of that. So that was a performing arts high school where they had you travel a lot too. You had your basic courses, but you would travel.
Oh, that's
And
great.
then I went off to college and I kind of shifted a little bit. And because I'm older now in college,
Mhm.
and I started to major in broadcasting communications.
Mhm.
And 2 years into college, that's where I had a shift in a health scare, where I had to come out of school.
Hmm.
And talk about that. I know that
Hmm.
in reading some of your story that
Hmm.
you had a health scare where you were temporarily blind.
Yeah, I was blind for 5 years.
Mm.
I was diagnosed with an incurable eye disease called uveitis.
Wow.
But God, I'm standing here and
Yes,
sitting
but
here looking at you. But this is 1998, so let's go back. 1998, second year in college, living on campus. And this particular day, I was reading for a class the next day. And I had called my parents and I'm like, something's wrong. My eyes, and my mom, and they're both on the phone, like both are, on the phone. And they're like, well, maybe you're cramming, just go wash your face. You're cramming. So I did that. And then it was just a different feeling. I couldn't see. So fast forward, I had to withdraw from college the right way. And I literally, the doctors didn't know what was wrong. So we went to about 4 or 5 doctors throughout New Jersey. And the one last doctor had said, told my father, because my father worked at night, so he was able to take me to the doctor during the day. And then when we went to this one doctor, he said, you know what, we're going to have to send you down to Will's Eyes Hospital in Philadelphia.
Mm.
And when I went down there, so imagine being 18, 19 years old,
Mm-hmm.
second year in college, exciting time, away from home, from your parents, living,
Yeah.
living on campus. And then here you lose your eyesight out of the blue. And wow. And then so we went through that, and I had to go through a whole bunch of tests and needle injections in my eyes. And they told me that, either you prepare for Braille or you step out on faith to get this surgery. And,
Mm.
and back then in 1998, uveitis is more common now. Mila Kunis, who's an actress who's married to Ashton Kutcher,
Yeah.
she had uveitis in one of her eyes, and she spoke about that. So I'm not saying anything like breaking confidentiality. It's public record, but she had uveitis, and my situation was bad. So I had cataracts on top of the disease. So pretty much the disease ate away my lens that we're all
Mm.
born with. So they had to scrape all the disease and the lens take out, and then they had to take the cataract. So it took a year for my eye to heal, one eye. So November 2000, that's when I had the first surgery, and then 2001 I had the other surgery for the other eye.
Wow. So
Mm.
how do you adjust the feeling in your mind, and one day you could see and the next minute you're not, and that was a span of 5 years. How did you emotionally deal with that?
It was tough. I mean, having faith and believing in God. I mean, I was raised in the church. My mom and I went to church. But it was rough because 18, 19 years old, you're like, you want to go out and,
Yeah.
be lit and go out and hang out.
Right. Right.
But it was like, nope. So my parents had bought me a car at this time. I couldn't drive. It was a lot, depression and everything. So, yeah.
Mm.
And I
And
tear up sometimes because it's like, it's nothing but God.
and
So,
nothing but
yeah.
God. So, and do you have any residual, I guess, occurrences of anything, or are you completely healed
Yeah,
from?
I'm completely healed, and I
Oh,
wear,
thank God.
high like special contacts that I wear. But I'm good. I drive. I got my motorcycle license. I'm good.
What?
So yes,
You're like, I'm
ma'am.
driven all the way
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, I'm good. And like I said, it was tough. And the thing is, my surgeon, he was a Christian. He's a Christian, and he says, "Wow, you're one of my youngest patients," because normally people who have uveitis, they're like in their 40s. So
Mm.
I had it when I was 18, and he was just saying, "You're a fighter. You never." But I thank my parents so much. When my dad was the one taking me down to Philadelphia, back and forth, Jersey, Philadelphia, just back and forth, back and forth, and he never gave up. And he was like, "You're going to see one day," and the good Lord, restored my vision.
And
Wow. Well, it's when you shared that story with me, it resonated with me because
Yeah.
most people don't know that I have vision in one eye.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know,
And I never knew that, Keon. As long as I've known you, I never knew that.
yeah,
Until you
and
told me that day. I'm saying, when you told me, I was shocked because I never knew.
yep, yep. So, I mean, it's not blind. They don't consider it blind,
Yeah.
but it's not vision where I could drive or do anything with, you know. So majority of my vision is in one eye.
Okay.
So when you shared that story, it really touched me because, I lived with this all my life,
Wow.
whether it's going to get my license and, have to get doctor's notes and things like that. But to completely lose vision in both eyes, I'm glad that you're here to share your story with us and inspire others, because it's not easy.
It's not. But I'm just thankful that I said yes to the surgery because it was left up to me. So
wow.
when the surgeon, after we got all the test results, and he was saying, and then let me just explain what uveitis is. Uveitis is like inflammation. Just the easiest way. The middle layer of your eye, inflammation. So it's like glaucoma, but it's a little bit worse.
Mm.
So with uveitis, and I'm not a doctor, but I'm gonna just tell you the basic fundamentals of uveitis. But you can either have uveitis where like organs in your body may be causing like inflammation in your eyes. Normally they say like uveitis may be linked to multiple sclerosis, lupus, things of that sort. So I got tested for all of that for many of years to see if there was an underlying issue.
Mhm.
But also you can fall into the category where your body is just fighting against itself, where it's an unknown. And that's the category that I fell into. It's just unknown. So the last time I went to the surgeon, my surgeon in Jersey, he had said I'm in remission. So, I still take eye drops and things of that sort, but I'm good.
That is so awesome. That's such an awesome testimony to know and to have that. I mean, I know you probably don't take a day for granted and having gone through that experience. So I guess when you're getting a phone call from a friend telling you to jump on the next plane or bus or have a cafe, you're like, sure,
Yes,
absolutely,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm doing whatever.
Right. Because 5 years, I'll never get those 5 years back. But I also think about it like the good Lord blessed me with 10 years. He doubled that while I worked 10 years straight in the music industry. So I
Mhm.
regained my eyesight in 2003 and I became, I started working in the music industry in 2005. And I
Wow.
worked all the way till 2016 as a celebrity assistant.
And
And
that just goes to show how, and it's an old thing there, adage everyone says in terms of what's for you is for you, because that request for your need to be your assistance could have happened while you was going through that. But God
right.
so fit for it to happen at the time when you have fully regained your sight. So it just
Yes.
goes to show when something is meant for you, it's nothing that's going to stop that, not even losing your sight. So
That's right. That's
that's
right.
amazing to see that. So I guess when you go through the journey of being a celebrity assistant and now you're, I guess following that transition, I guess you started doing events as
Right.
well. Is that the chronologically order of your happened? So how did you get into doing that portion of it?
Well, it's pretty much who you know in the
Mm-hmm.
game, but also too, as far as the events with, I don't know what events you were talking about. Are you talking
The plethora
about?
of ones I saw.
Oh, okay. Well, those events, such as like the presidential inauguration, that was pretty much when I was the assistant to Alicia Keys' musical director for 6 years.
Hmm.
So I worked with Andre Gill is his name. So I worked with him for 6 years. He was Alicia Keys' musical director at the time. However, he was the man and he had a lot of accounts where people called him and we worked on several accounts such as Stevie Wonder and the events that you
Okay.
saw. So it was
Okay.
pretty much through him and he allowed me to work alongside him and co-produce most of the entertainment segments that I listed on my list. Yeah.
So, and with that, because having the experience early on in life, you were able to transfer that skill set to be able to say, okay, I kind of got this a little bit. Of course, through the guidance of them,
Right.
you were able to take in some of that you had experienced early on in your, I guess, that's high school years, and then transitioning that a little bit of time in college.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of being able to walk into that, because oftentimes people feel like you got to have this long list of resume and history of work, and a lot of it was just kind of you having tapped into it at a younger age.
Yes, yes. I mean, at a young age, I knew, like, for instance, when I went to arts, when I wanted to go to arts high, that was my aha moment. I had did all the
Mhm.
research. My parents were like, well, that's in Newark. How are you going to go to Newark? And I'm like, oh, I did the research. Aunt Carrie said I can use her address. You know what I mean? So I kind of, that
Mhm.
was like my aha moment of knowing the skills of organization, but I just didn't know exactly where I wanted to pursue. I kind of worked in several areas. I went to production school in New York to learn more about studio production, just the basic fundamentals of like what's a compressor, what's a
Mhm.
microphone, to kind of really understand because that verbiage, not
Yeah.
knowing that down the line I'm going to be, assisting a musical director, they're going to be talking about, hey, I need you to go ahead and do the stage plot and get this backline and such and such,
Mhm.
put this compressor, all those things. So it kind of really aligned up, and I did the groundwork, and I'm so thankful that I did the groundwork, and now my career allowed me to work in those various areas.
So what ultimately after having that experience have you taken away in saying that you want to do in the music industry? Have you kind of put that on a shelf, or is that something you eventually still want to get into?
Well, I am now making the pivot. So my last job as a celebrity assistant, assistant was to Aaron Lindsay in the gospel industry, six-time
Mhm.
Grammy Award-winning producer, songwriter Aaron Lindsay. I
Mhm.
worked with him, and he stepped down in 2016, and that's when I knew. I said, okay, it's been like about 10 years, being a personal assistant to directors. Let me take the time and kind of like work on myself. So from 2016 to 2019, I did a lot of soul searching. And of course, working, side hustle, jobs, and freelancing. And then
Mhm.
I just knew that I want to start my own company. I want to
Mhm.
take all the skills that I've learned and stay in alignment of what I'm used to doing and just launch my own company. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, can you give details about what you're looking at, or so
Oh,
you
well,
can?
yeah, no, it's fine. I'm gonna
Oh,
give you a
okay.
little bit. It's lifestyle management. Lifestyle
Okay.
management, if you're not familiar with it, it's more of a fancy term. It's still providing personal assistance
Mhm.
to various clients, and that specializes. Well, my niche will be more pro athletes, still music entertainment, brand activations, Fortune 500 companies, political campaigns. Far as like with volunteer management. setting that up for actual campaigns. So it's still providing personal assistance to various clients and
Mhm.
various brands. So it's the same thing.
But in essence, you would be the boss, basically
Yes.
hiring assistants for these people that you
Yeah,
vetted. Okay.
right. The
Okay.
route that I want to go in the first phase is to hire VAs. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not familiar, virtual assistants are like that's where it's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people can't hire a personal assistant paying 60, 70, $80,000 a year.
Right.
Especially, with these startup companies and just different people. So VAs, virtual assistant, if you're not familiar with that, that is the way to go. So if you're in, if you have any admin skills, if you're good with social media, this is the time now to, create a platform where you can, service-based business and make money from home. So, yeah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Because that's more task driven as
Yeah.
opposed to it being at somebody's beck and call when they need
Right. And a lot of
something.
companies now are, hiring virtual assistants, and
Mm-hmm.
boutique companies such as like myself. I'm not a virtual assistant, but we provide assistance where they're hiring companies in to pretty much take on all their accounts. So for instance, if it's a sports agency, which is like I love, a lot of these companies, they may have the public relations department and the agents do the contracts, but they normally will, some agencies will go out and hire a lifestyle management or a VA boutique company to come in and handle all the day-to-day logistics for their athletes. So
Mhm.
yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
So
That's
were you so and from that, I'm assuming a lot of being able to kind of really bring your business up to the place you want to is the relationships that you had to keep. How have you been able to maintain that? And are you going to be able to reach out to some people and say, hey, I've started my business and
Yes, I've reached out. I mean, I'm not there yet to launch. I'm looking to launch the top of 2021. I'm not going to give a date, but
Mhm.
I'm looking to launch the first quarter. But I'm doing the groundwork. There's something that I am working on. I talked to Keon about it, that I may share with some people on social media. But yeah, I've reached out to my boss. I don't know if he's on here, Andre. I told him, and he's like, "Go for it. I'm for it. I'm waiting. The training wheels has been off." So he's
right,
like,
right.
"Let's go." So I have that encouragement, from him. And then I reached out to some other peers of mine that are musicians. They're like, "Jehan, we're rooting for you. You've been doing it, serving your way, behind the scenes for a long time. Now this is your time." So yes, I've maintained those relationships. Yeah.
So go ahead, Kay.
I was going to ask. So, what's one thing that you learned about yourself throughout your career?
Wow, I'm stronger than I think I am,
Mm,
and I think I'm really at a place where like I'm comfortable about who I am. I'm a little bit nervous right now, but I'm comfortable with who I am. In those years of 2016 to 2019, I worked on me. I had
Mhm.
a lot of work to do, personal development, just me time. I didn't feel like being bothered with emails because it was 10 years of working, and I needed that time for me because I said my next what I do, I want to start it without stopping.
Yeah,
So that self-care, we talk about hashtag self-care and
yeah.
mental, health and all of that. I really needed those 3, 4 years to myself. So
Well, especially when you come from a position where your needs are tampered down
right,
and you have to service someone else, I can imagine you need that self-reflection to kind of get
yeah,
back into what are your needs because you're always meeting someone else's needs. So that has to be a lot to carry. How do you I
yeah.
mean? I mean, I assume you're a humble person. I mean, I have a very intuitive nature about people. But I can
Mhm.
tell that your spirit of servitude is what led you to want to do that. But does it weigh on you having to constantly be at someone else's needs at all time?
Not really, to be honest. I love serving people. I
Mm-hmm.
really do. And the thing is that it's one thing you say, I just love serving people and they don't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Literally from the musicians to the singers over the 10 years, I can't really think about like, oh, well, there was a time when they were just ungrateful. Like I really enjoy it. And I've been blessed to have great bosses to, not be like that dictator, I mean, they corrected me when I was wrong, but, or I made mistakes, but it was always a safe space and everybody was just down to work and to do what we got to do. Time is money, money is time. But I just love serving. Now, one thing my boss Andre always told me, he says, Jehan, put the computer down, go to bed. It's going to be the same, it's going to be the same thing tomorrow morning. Just go to bed. So there were moments where I just wanted to make sure that it was,
For
perfect,
everything, right?
because
Yeah,
just
yeah.
dropping the ball. Listen,
That
if you
wasn't
drop
your
the,
snap.
yeah, you'll get
Well,
it.
that just means that's going to make for a great business that you're going to start because people are going to entrust that the work that you put into everything that you did for everyone else is going to rise to the same standard when you
Right.
go and hire people that are, going to be the ones that they need, because you're going to have the inquiry to be able to ask the questions and know what to look for. So
Right.
that's great that you have that spirit, because not everyone has it. We could say, I want to help others and be of service to others, until somebody tell you, I need you to run down here and go pick the cleaners up, then, all of that other stuff. We
Right.
know
And
that
that
thing.
happened to me. That you said that one time, I remember real quick, I was in LA, and there was a session for like a Grammy artist. I'm not gonna go to it. It was a gospel artist. He had a session. He flew in to no, we were in Houston. So we left LA, we flew into back to Houston, and we were like, okay, we gotta have this session, we have the singers coming in, and the engineer shipped the hard drive out in enough time, because this engineer was like really professional, well known. So we like getting ready to go to the session. So my boss called. He says, the hard drive wasn't delivered. What's going on? So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay, don't worry about it. He says, no, we need to figure it out. So then after a while, he says, you know what? Don't worry about it. We'll deal with it at the studio. Da 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 da. I got on the phone and called FedEx, and I'm like, listen, I need that hard drive. It's really important. I was making up any and everything. I don't remember what I said. So I took it upon myself and drove an hour to Crosby, Texas, from where I was at the time, to go meet the FedEx guy, get the hard drive, drive all the way back to deliver the hard drive to the session. And my boss was like, you didn't have to do that. I'm like, nope, I had to. Time is money, money is time. Because just
Yeah,
think about it. If I wouldn't have gotten that hard drive, the songs that they had on the computer, just think about if this artist says, hey, let's do
yeah,
song
yeah.
52, and that 52 was on a hard drive, that would make my boss look kind of like, kind of whack. So just going above and beyond,
Yeah.
so
I mean, that's exceptional that you have people that you work for that felt
yeah,
that way. All the times they do feel like it falls on you if stuff go wrong.
yeah,
So the fact that they was like, oh, it's fine. That just speaks to the kind of people that you were able to serve. I guess your spirit gravitated to that kind of person
yeah,
as well. But it just makes it even more, because you think if you hear something about the entertainment industry, you watch certain movies that kind of like make it seem like everybody's gonna be this domineering, evil, kind of sadistic kind of personality, and they're not that way. It's like the hype beyond that is not that. You just see that on television because that's what they make it out to be. But the reality is everybody wants to work together collectively to make things run smoothly and not make people feel bad about stuff.
Well, let me just be clear. There's people in the music industry that, can be a bit shrewd. I'm not going to sit here and say that everything is peachy and things of that sort. I'm just saying, out of the 10 years that I've worked, I probably had one manager that wasn't in our camp with another artist. He was just a bit, different. And you got to work through it, because you can't just say, oh, I don't like him. You have to work with him, for the next, 2 or 3 days. And you got to set aside your feelings of how you feel. But there's some shrewd people, but at the end of the day, you got to have tough skin. That's what it's all
That's right.
about. Mm-hmm.
And it's not about you. Like, I think
No.
we've done interviews with other people who are in the business and the entertainment industry, and one of the things they said they had to learn over the course of their journey is that things that's going on when people are having a bad day, it's not about them. It's
Right.
oftentimes the situation. And when you take yourself out the personal part of it,
Yeah.
your thoughts can be a lot different. So
Absolutely.
that always makes
Absolutely.
a difference. So through all the great experiences you have, what were some of the challenges you had?
Challenges. There were some accounts where I needed help, meaning like runners or interns, but literally I had to just suck it up and do it.
Mhm.
My bosses that I've had, we didn't have a team. It was just literally, I'm assisting this director, whether it was Beyonce's director, Kimberly Burse, I worked with. It was just her and I, or me and Andre. We had, bands members and things of that sort. But when it came to the logistics, I'm managing him, and then I'm managing the accounts. Sometimes it could be overwhelming, but you have to suck it up. Never let them see you sweat. So there were moments of like, if only I
Right,
had two people on today. You know what I
right,
mean? But it was
Right.
just like, you got to keep it going. Multitask. Sometimes I would have two printers running, my laptop, going over to my boss, his laptop, printing out lyrics, getting charts sent to me in New York while I'm in LA. It's just a lot. Then you got to worry about trying to get hospitality, ground transportation, what artist is coming in and out. It's just a lot. But over time, I was able to master that. When I first
mhm,
started, I was like, what? Writing
yeah,
it down like he said, you know what I mean? But over the years, I'm just like, okay, let's go. Let's do this. So,
yeah.
mm-hmm.
Well, that seems like a great, I guess, a great journey to go on because it seemed like I'm the kind of person who rises to chaos. When things are going wrong, I'm like, I'm just crazy. I'm like, oh, okay, come on. But it gets the adrenaline going. So would
Yes.
you consider that a part of your character where how you are reactionary to those things that are in chaos because you try to find the calm in it?
Yes. Yeah, that exactly. It's just like, okay, you know what? Let's calm down. We're going to do this, do that, because the moment that you're like all over the place, you'll drop the ball, you know.
Mhm.
And don't get me wrong. I've made mistakes in my earlier years of being an assistant. I'm not going to sit up here that I was just like, you know, but I'm talking about my first year being an
Mhm.
assistant. You
Mhm.
know, there was one moment that I was working with Kimberly Burse for Beyonce. She was Beyonce's director at the time, and I freelanced with her for about a year. And I'll
Mhm.
never forget, we were at in New York, SIR Studios, and Beyonce and Kim was sitting, you know, in a stool, band rehearsal. Now, Beyonce's mom's there, Beyonce's assistant is there, and
Mhm.
me, and then other people. Kim asked me, she says, come here. So I went over to her and Beyonce. She says, can you cut an apple for Beyonce? Right?
Mhm.
This is like my first like year as, you know, assisting. And I go over there to, you know, the table where all the fruit and stuff, and I cut up the apple and napkin, brought it over. She says, you never asked whether she wants the seeds out, take the skin off. She says, and then, you know, she didn't really like go off on me in front of Beyonce, but she was like, take the seeds out. So I went back. And then after we had a discussion, she was like, listen, this is what I need. You have to always ask questions. Don't assume.
Mhm.
Because you may eat your apple like that, but necessarily that's not how Beyonce or whomever eats their apple. So it was things like that, you know.
And that's a very good insight into taking on that role because you often think that because you're supposed to just kind of just go with it, but those are things.
Kiana, I can't hear. Okay. Go ahead.
Can you hear me
Hello?
now?
Wait. There you go. Go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah. So you all, I was just saying that that's a great insight to having that job because oftentimes you don't think about the granular things within a role in terms of making sure just is asking a question of seeds or no seeds, skin or no skin, but
Right.
just
Mhm.
thinking that you have to be that specific about stuff. But
Exactly.
that's the expectation of that role is to be thinking deeper than the question or the request. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
good to know.
Well,
Yes.
this actually brings us to a question that we got online. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So from Regina, she said, "What advice would you give someone trying to get into the industry to become a celebrity executive assistant?"
Well, I would just say, just know why you want to become an assistant because some people just say, I want to, you know, become an assistant. And literally, like, there's a segue. They really want to become an artist. So they just want to, you know, so just start with your why. Like, only you know what your why is. And once you know if it's like that's what you really want to do, I would just say to start networking. Being in the places where, I mean, I know we're in COVID right now, but you know, go into like open mics. If you want to be in music, go to conferences. You know, do your research. Follow people on social media that are like, you know, producers and people that make the decisions. And also, too, there's a new app. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it called Clubhouse.
Mhm.
Clubhouse is invite only, and that's a great platform to kind of really get in and kind of work your way and express interest. And maybe you can try to get an internship or to shadow. You know,
Mhm.
don't be afraid to ask. If it's someone and you vetted them out, you know, you've kind of know, you kind of feel people out because you just don't want to align yourself with just anyone. But I would just say if you find that one person and just say, hey, you know, if you don't mind if I shadow you to learn, you know, a little bit here and there what you do, you know, whether if it's at a recording studio, whether it's someone at a marketing firm, there's various areas in the music industry, entertainment industry that you can learn and eventually find your lane, whether you want to do touring or work at a record label. So I would just say pretty much put yourself out there, but start with following people on social media. You know, once COVID lifts, start flying to events, putting yourself in the atmosphere, DMing some people, random people, you know, that are of, and just let them know, you know, this is what I want to do, things of that sort. So that's the best advice I can tell you.
Well,
Awesome.
so, oh,
We
go
actually
ahead.
have another question from Michelle. She says, "How important do you think college is for people thinking of this industry? How did it help you?"
Well, for me, my major was broadcasting communications. And I didn't finish college. I did 2 years and then went to production school for 9 months. So I didn't go to school for music, but I mean, There's music schools out there. I mean, like there's Full Sail. I think that's in Florida. Full Sail College that has things with like music. So I wouldn't say go to college for the music industry. I think for the best experience is being in the midst of it, interning and getting yourself and connecting with people, because it's all about relationships, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's about who you know. It's not about, well, I have a long resume. That's nice, but this person who knows such and such is going to get right to the top of the line. So nourish those relationships authentically, just make sure you're organically, just make sure you're, nourishing your relationship. So that's the best thing I can say.
I like that.
And I was going to ask in terms of like, oftentimes people find these roles like become nannies or assistants because they have aspirations of getting in the industry like an actor or singer. What would you, I guess, advise them on how to approach that without seeming like I'm only out for myself, but utilizing this position to get into the know of the industry?
Well, so I mean, there's agencies. I'm not sure if that's like, well, for instance, like the Help Company. That's
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Mm-hmm.
If write it down. The Help Company is literally they hire nannies, housekeepers, things of that sort. Now, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of the nannies sometimes eventually become the executive director, the home estate manager for the client. They start out being the housekeeper, washing and cooking, but then because they trust them, you know what I mean? They show up every day and they eventually evolve. And that's, to me, that's fine. But when you're going in there saying, I want to be a housekeeper, but I really want to network and be with Ludacris, you know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work. You have to be, because people will peep game. You can't,
Absolutely.
you have to be true to what it is, because why would you invest all that time doing something that's not in alignment with, with what you really want to do? I'd rather for you work a 9 to 5, network here and there, and really be true to the game, and take the route that you're supposed to. Don't finagle, as they say,
Right.
because people will peep it. Like, nah, the
They'll
next
stick with
person,
it.
yeah, don't do it, because people peep it. They really will know. Like, it's they're only here for a moment, So
Well,
that's
let's
pretty.
talk about in terms of understanding from reading some of the stuff that you've done, that you've kind of tipped your hat into politics. How is that different from doing or working with celebrities? Are you directly working with politicians themselves or events surrounding them?
Well, the recently I was on the Joe Biden Harris campaign, and that was
Mm-hmm.
pretty much just because I actually did the presidential inauguration with Joe Biden was the speaker. He was the vice president at the time.
Mm.
But this particular, because I was just so invested in this election this year, as we all have been, but I just said, let me just do something, give back. And I literally was actually talking to my dad. He was just like, why don't you just volunteer for the campaign? You're fully invested, watching everything going on with Biden and what's going on. So I just really did my research, signed up, and literally just took the training and just start doing handling logistics that we were assigned to, making phone calls and, attending virtual events. So it was just pretty much doing the research, and they allowed me to come on and volunteer with 250,000 volunteers
Oh, wow.
jumped on the Biden campaign, and we got invited to the White House. So once the COVID lifts, we're going to be going to the White House.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And that's just another great networking opportunity. I guess it also speaks about the volunteering aspect of it, because a lot of times, even with the interning and volunteering, that leads to
Yes.
opening up your network of people.
Less. I'm gonna tell you, Shay. I was what something would have been, because I volunteered for Simone Biles. I think it was on the list. I volunteered for Simone Biles here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It was an international invitational, so it was just okay. I'm gonna go. I love Simone. She's here in Houston. She's from Houston, and we were just talking. And one lady was like, so what do you do? It was an older lady, and I'm like, oh, this is what I do. Trying to like downplay it. And I said, I'm looking for like something part time, just to do until I'm able to, to get some extra cash. So she says,
Mm-hmm.
well, you know what? I'm gonna connect you with the operations from Houston Astros. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. People just saying, okay. Well,
Right.
she did, and I got the job. And even though with baseball, with COVID, it never happened because of baseball and sports. But
Yeah.
just like with volunteering, I use that example, just with volunteering, when you just have those natural conversations, you never know who you're sitting next to or who's in the room. So I would say take advantage of volunteering. Don't just say, oh no, I got to get paid, because you never know,
Yeah.
that can funnel into becoming where you're compensated for. So never like look down on it. Never.
And you also can't be an introvert. You have to be personable, as I can tell you are. You have to be willing to sell yourself. So
Hmm.
speaking to that portion of it, do you have like an elevator pitch that you kind of use for your own self, that you sell yourself to people? Do you have that in mind, or you just kind of let it flow based on your things, your experience, or your background?
Well, it just depends. I just often know like people don't really have time.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can just be too long winded. So it's just pretty much, hey, my name is Jehan Lanoue, born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. I've been a celebrity assistant for 10 years. One of my career highlights, I've done the Muhammad Ali 70th birthday TV show that aired on ESPN. I love serving. I worked my way, throughout my career, serving people behind the scenes. Keep it short.
Mm.
Allow them to ask you, so wait, you work behind the scenes? Who do you work for? So you just keep it 20, 30 seconds to a minute. Allow them to ask you the questions, not just keep talking and talking and talking, because by then they're like, okay, they're
Mhm.
over it. So that's pretty much what I do.
But if for instance, if someone is just starting out and they don't have the resume experience that you have, what, I guess, even experience that they may have had in their past that you think they could use that would highlight them to show that they have the experience to be an assistant?
Well, I would just say use what you've done in the past, but
Mhm.
volunteer. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna tell you this. I can't stress this enough. And I'm not saying like just go ahead and work for free. That's not what I'm
Mhm.
saying. But in order to get into the game, it's a hustle. You have to be in the place. I mean, unless you just want to start a YouTube channel and put yourself out there and talk about different things with admin, that's another way to get yourself out there. You want to start an IGT series, talk about time management, things of that sort. That's an alignment of being an assistant and try to get your brand out there. That's another way. But
Mhm.
volunteering, there's nothing wrong with it. There was a time in my career, 2008, I was living in Chicago, free, interning under Percy Beatty, who's a gospel producer. I
Mhm.
tell you, we're in a studio, and this is when MySpace was really like popular, and I
Yeah.
got a DM, and I thought it was like it wasn't for me, but it was actually Kimberly Burse, who was Beyonce's director at the time. This is what the email said. She says, "Hi, how are you?" Because at the time, Andre had me in his top 4 or 5, on MySpace or whatever. So she says, "I noticed that you worked with Andre. Check this out. I only had American Idol under my belt, only one
Mhm.
gig."
Mhm.
So she says, "I want to know, can you come to New York on this day? I want you to intern for the week, meaning no compensation. You have to get your own hotel.
Wow.
It's on you, right?" So she didn't know that I was from Jersey. So I told my other friend, I'm like, Des, and we Googled her. I'm like, oh my gosh, So I said, was this for me? She says, yes, it was for you. She said, but before you answer, I need a recommendation from Andre. She was vetting me. So I contacted Andre. He was on a tour with Alicia. And I said, hey, can you vouch for me because I want to do this internship? Now I'm in Chicago. How am I going to get to New York?
You still there? We lost you. We lost your sound.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I said, how am I going to, get to New York? So my friend Des was like, you know what, I'm gonna pay for you. I'm gonna pay for your travel there. So I got on the train, 21 hours from
Wow.
Chicago to New York, and I interned. And she says, and by the way, it's for Beyonce. I don't need you freaking out. If you're that type of person, I can't work with you. She was just straight up. So that one week, I interned with Kim, worked with Beyonce, and at the last day of that internship, she paid me for the week, and it was
Wow.
the rate that you normally get. So what I'm trying to say is, though, volunteering, you might say, even if you have gigs under your belt, you never know what can happen. And I
Mhm.
wind up working with her on several other events on other artists for about a total of a year. And then I started working with Andre on a more consistent basis. So that was a volunteer opportunity that I said yes to.
That's awesome. That
That's
really is a great
awesome.
story.
21 hours, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's something you really, when you really want something, and the fact that you had enough passion inside of you to say, "I'm going to take this journey over there," not knowing in terms of money, compensation,
nope.
what's going to happen, anything, because you just don't know, and it's one of those things where it lets you know in terms of the kind of person you are in terms of getting into this. Like if this is something
Right.
for you, you'll know right off the bat to say no, no, I don't want to do it.
Right.
That's for
Yeah.
you.
Your
Mhm.
discernment, you kind of
Yeah,
know, you're
you
like,
know.
I don't know, that might be a little suspect, but But I was able. She vetted me, and when I asked Andre, he said, "Nah, she's cool people. Do it." Because at the time he was on tour, and I was something that he was always adamant about. Build those relationships, and I did. And then when he came home from Alicia, because this is when she was touring like almost all of 365 days. When he finally came home, that's when I started working with him, and it wasn't right away. He was taking me in with Alicia. He had to build, like, let me see where you're at. I'm gonna take you on this gig. What do you do in this instance? He would train me, like, listen to music. I mean, it was crazy. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I have to do. But it all made sense.
Yeah, all
It all
came
made sense.
together.
Yep.
So when it comes down to working with different people,
Mm-hmm.
is there like a contract basis that they say, hey, this is going to be for a year, this is for, with a normal job as an EA or something,
Mm-hmm.
you are hired. And of course, anything can happen if it's a hire at will kind of job.
Right.
But in the position of that, like, how do you know how long you'll be with that person?
Well, you kind of knew my last position when I worked with Aaron. I knew that it probably wasn't going to be long, so it was about a year. Like, yeah, about a year, and then I came back home. I worked with Andre for 6 years. So that was consistent. Kimberly, Kim, I worked with her freelancing in between, but I kept, it's another thing too. While I was building my career, I kept my job at J. Crew. I'm, familiar with I worked at J. Crew for 8 years.
Wow.
And I was a manager at one time for J. Crew. Let me tell you, I was building my career, but I kept J. Crew and I transferred. So I started out in New Jersey, Short Hills Mall, put in my hand, like, interning and doing little things, shadowing people with music at Sony Records, asking a lot of questions. Moved to Nashville, transferred with J. Crew, lived in Nashville. Nashville wasn't for me. I just didn't like it, and I left Nashville. But while I was in Nashville, one of my friends, Dwayne Woods, I don't know if you're familiar with. He's a gospel artist who had the biggest song like "Let Go, Let God" years
Oh,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he was in town and he was like, "Hey Jay, come see me. I'm, ministering at this church." So he was like, "What's going on with you?" In Nashville, my allergies was so bad. I was miserable. And I was like, "I just want to go home. It's horrible here." And he was like, "Listen, I'm going on tour, doing my promotional tour for Let Go, Let God. Why don't you come on tour?" So I had to interview for it. And let me tell you, I drove the van, the 15 passenger van for
Wow.
a month. I'm 5 even. So I'm up, like, driving in snow and everything. But from that point, then that's how I moved to Chicago. And then from Chicago, that's when Kim contacted me. I moved back to Jersey. Then when I started working with Andre, we moved to LA. I still kept J. Crew. I just kept transferring. So
Wow.
building that relationship to have money, it wasn't a lot because retail is up and down, but at least had something as I built, my assistant gigs.
Well, I mean, and that's good to know because the other side of people think about getting in the industry is this lucrative job that you're going to have that you can quit and retire after a couple of years. So I guess without going into specifics, I guess kind of give an insight of like you having to still financially compensate other places while doing this. That is not it's luxurious and the activities you do, but you're not actually getting the wealth that's going to that again let you early retire.
Well,
I got to go.
when I started working with Andre, that's when I started seeing the increase. Now there were moments when I say there were moments in between, like, so if you had like a big show when I worked with Stevie Wonder, and then next thing you know, we might have Alicia's event, and then you might have 3 weeks no gigs, but you've gotten paid, one show, that's rent, you know what I mean, and money left over. So it was when I worked with him, that's when I started seeing a little bit of increase with my money. And then, of course, with Aaron, that was more on a salary, as well as with Andre. So, but it was their moments. And it was just, I knew that I was going to, and the good thing is, let me just say this, Andre was like, "You ain't going to work with me forever. Like, you're going to have," not that he was pushing me out, but he
Yeah.
knew that he wanted me to, like, you're a visionary. And Aaron Lindsay said the same thing. We actually had prayer. It was me, him, and his wife, and then one of my friends, James. And he was just telling me, like, you're a visionary, but you have to understand that. And when you're ready, and that's that time, 2016 to 2019, I had to work because he saw it, He was just like, you have to build your own, Jehan. You can't keep, and not that, that because he stepped down, but he was just, you have to build your own hub. You've learned enough. The training wheels are off. Cut the fear out. You do it. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be easy, but start your own. So that's where I'm at.
So, in addition to starting your lifestyle management company, what other
Mhm.
things that you would like to accomplish?
Well, I would love, like literally, I would love to work at the White House,
Okay.
Wow.
but in a supporting role, not like, a director to the, but just more of the supporting role in the offices. Because, when a new administration, and that's just a goal of mine, but when a new administration comes in, they're able to hire like 4,000 to 5,000 people. And a lot of this like admins and things of that sort. When you see the transition team is a lot of the major like
Yeah.
economic plan,
Mhm.
teams,
Yeah.
just the admin, the person, the client, the person that supports. I would love to do that one day.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
Well, one thing that's so admirable about you is the fact that you don't let the grass grow underneath your feet at all. The fact that you're willing to take roles on that you know that's going to have an end date. Where a lot of times people don't want to walk into these kind of positions. I mean, again, any job unless you work for yourself, and even then, it's not guaranteed. Where they would be fearful to have a job where they know there's an eventual end date at the end of this assignment. Because if somebody doesn't get reelected, you don't have a job. Or if somebody decides they
Right,
want to retire from the music industry, then you're out of a job. But
right.
is that just something you've always wanted to do where you were constantly kind of transitioning in and out?
Yeah, just kind of really learning as much as possible, a big umbrella, so that whenever that day comes, I can now in-house it. I'll often think about like TMZ. When you see TMZ, when they show the office and all the different departments, like I'm like, that's one day is gonna be my office. Like I'm gonna have a marketing department, social media department, client relations, a real estate, department, so that they can work with clients when they want to relocate. That's how I think. I think big.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just how I think. But yeah.
And one of the things I just popped up my screen that reminded me, when we posted up that we was interviewing you today, Sylvia uh Key Austin said, "Oh my God, her and my father know each other," and she told to
What's her
tell you
name?
hello, Sylvia Key.
What's Oh, Jimmy Key. That's his daughter.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
trying to find her for years. My dad and I were just talking about at least like two, because my dad and her father were like close friends in the
that's what
post
she said.
office.
That's what she
Yes.
said. Yeah, she said to tell you hi. She was like, "Oh my God!" So yeah, so
Please
we'll make
tell me.
you all
I need to
connect.
connect with her.
Yeah,
Yeah, I need to connect
Yes,
with her.
we'll make that
Oh,
happen.
that made me happy.
yes, and
Yes,
she's
ma'am.
actually launching her podcast next year.
Mhm.
She's on
Oh,
XM
wow.
series, but she's branching out on her own. So she's launching her Next Nation podcast, which is
Wonderful.
Mhm.
very, very needed voice amongst all that's going on in the world. So,
Okay.
so we'll make sure
That's
we connect you all together.
that is great. Yes, I would love to talk to her. We were little
Yeah.
itty bitties with pigtails. Like, oh, it was a lot.
What's so nice is actually Sylvia's watching right now, and she says, "Oh,
Hey, Sylvia.
Jehan, love you.
I love
Send
you
your father
too.
my love."
Oh, I will. I will. I gotta give her an update. My dad's doing good, but I'm gonna talk. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to tell my dad. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so good.
Yeah.
So I guess with everything that you have gone through and the journeys of your life, what is something that I guess a word or phrase that inspires you that, or something like a mantra that you live by on a daily basis, or things that you need to say to yourself to inspire yourself?
Well, I often call it the I movement, and it's always stay informed, always inform others, be inspired, inspire others, and hopefully all of that will ignite the fire within. That's always I say to myself, make sure I'm staying informed, staying engaged, staying, being resourceful. Is this going to help me? And because you can be inspired, but you don't apply it. You're inspired one day, and the next day you're just off doing the same thing. One moment you want to lose weight, next moment you just like, ooh, I want chicken, things of that sort. So just staying informed, being inspired, hopefully that would not ignite the fire within to go further to accomplish my goals.
That is wonderful. That is like literally. I'm gonna have to like play this back or get you to send me a DM with that, because that's such a great little thing to just kind of remind yourself about. It's just been a crazy year overall for all of us, but it's definitely one of those things that you have to do things and have actual verbal affirmations that you say out loud often to kind of remind you that we're gonna get through it.
Yes,
So it's gonna get better.
absolutely. Yeah, it is.
So, and I guess to round this all up, what would be like your overall advice or I guess inspiration to someone to say them looking to get into this field, wanting to step out and to kind of be able to pivot from maybe what they're doing now because they're stuck in a job they don't want to do? what would be something that you would say to them about how to get started?
I always often say I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. He's a great author. He talks about what's your why. He often says, what's your why? And I say that all the time because if you don't know what your why is, you're going to just be all over the place. Only you know what your why is. So if your why is, okay, this year I want to accomplish this. In 3 years, I would like to do this. It may not happen that way, but you have some sort of a guideline because, God is in control of all things. But I would just say start with your why and see if you're good at what you're trying to accomplish. And if you need some sort of mentorship, ask for that. Because sometimes people feel as though that I know it all, I don't need help, and then you crash and burn. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, asking for, can you coach me? And then when you feel like you're able to make some progress, step out. I would just say step out on faith. And for me, it took me a long time. Like I'm literally just like being vocal on social media, meaning this is my first interview ever on social media. So I'm just starting to, because it's needed with my story. And of course, hopefully bringing some insight to people, giving them encouragement if they want to get into the music entertainment industry. But I would just say step out, ask questions, put yourself out there, and position yourself the right way. And keep God first. Whoever you pray to, keep him first. Keep whoever you pray to first, and the rest will all add up. But just start with your why. Write it down, pray over it, and just make sure like this is what I'm going to do, and you do it. It might be small steps, but small steps is better than nothing. So
Absolutely, that is so great.
And get a mentor too.
And I'm glad you said that because that was going to be a question I don't ask earlier on. But who mentored you? Was it anyone that you called on when your journey was going through the various facets of your career?
I would talk to my parents about it, but not all the time because they wouldn't understand the music. They're like, "What?" But like, "Oh, who cares?" But no, I would talk to Andre. I would talk to one of my other female friends. But I would talk to him. Andre is like my boss and like a good friend of mine, and he still gets me together. Like there's things that in my personal life we like. Look, this is what you need to do. You were wrong. You were out of line. So I could honestly say it's Andre Gill.
That's good. It's always good to have a person to call you to the carpet and let you know when you're right, or also to cheerlead you on. So we thank you for telling your journey and giving everything from what has happened to you, from your testimony of your health crisis and just where you are now. And we wish you all good faith. I try not to say that, I believe in faith.
Right.
And I, believe that great things are going to come for you because I can feel your energy and your spirit just through the screen, and hope that anything you want that, come from your life and what you speak into existence will come true. So
thank you so much, Shay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. All right.
It was an honor to have you.
Bye-bye.
And for all those out there who are watching us today, thank you so much for joining and on this discussion and learning about Jehan's journey in her life. If you know of anyone who can inspire you or who has inspired you, if you've been an inspiration to anyone, please make sure you email us at inspiredbyandhonest@gmail.com. It's right below, right here. And let us know. We're ending our first season. This is like a woo! Congratulations to Kiana for being the visionary behind this platform. This platform was created to inspire the youth or anyone who's looking to get into these various positions and professions. And we thank you all for continuously joining us and supporting the show. If you didn't see earlier, if you want to support the show, please Cash App $ Kiana Tennant. All money towards anything you would donate goes to keeping this platform going. We're hoping that anything that you can contribute can keep it going so we can grow it into a bigger platform for people to be inspired by. But until then, you all have a blessed holiday, a blessed happy new year. Stay safe. And I want to dedicate this show to all those who have lost someone. It's been a rough week for us, but we made it through, and I'm thankful for that. So you all be well, and God bless you.
Happy holidays.